The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio.
So, the quarterfinals are set and it's Northern Hemisphere v Southern Hemisphere in all the games this weekend. Australia are out and Scotland couldn't do anywhere near enough against the boys in green. So there's plenty to chat about, and joining me as ever, the inimitable Sarra Elgan.
I've never been called inimitable before. I don't even know what that means. What does inimitable mean?
Can you spell it?
No, I have no chance of that. My spelling is atrocious.
It's hard to say at this time of the morning, I know that. Sarra, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm really good. Tired, but good.
Good. And someone else who you probably could do an impression of, the Evening Standard Steve Cording.
You do an impression of me? That'd
You'd just be like really chill, I think, if I did an impression of you.
Oh,
it
go
would
on,
just
then.
be like talking like this.
Oh,
like
is that
really
the way I
slow.
talk? Really
White
slowly.
TV.
Yeah, that feels that way anyway. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good, yes.
What have you been up to?
Well, other than a weekend of barbecuing in this bizarre weather that
Say
we've
what
been
now?
having, which has been lovely.
Barbecuing.
Barbecuing, beering. We won't talk about the rugby watching, which was England, which we'll talk about later, which was awful. But the main thing is my daughter can now ride her bike.
That is such an exciting time.
So they're all done now. All the kids can now ride bikes, which
That's
is
so
such
cute.
a relief. Yeah, she didn't fall off at all yesterday. I'm sure she will today. But anyway, she's off, up and running.
Oh, that's so cute. Lo, what have you been up to?
Well,
Apart from golfing
golfing.
and enjoying yourself.
Usual. ITV, so I was working hard across the weekend, filling in on TNT Sport for all the people that are away as well.
Oh, is that a dig, is it?
Well, I can't remember the last time I did a Prem Cup game.
No, because I usually do Prem Cup games.
I think my star's waning, actually, to be honest with you. No, listen, I did Northampton against the mighty Doncaster, the big game of the weekend.
Nice.
Slightly one-sided in the end.
Yes, it was a cricket score, but there we go. And I appeared on a rival podcast, a Welsh one. Couldn't understand a word any of them were saying.
Wait, the thing is, though, he thinks he was on a podcast. He was actually on a show, a television show. So he came on it and he was like, oh, it's nice to be on the podcast. I was like, it's a television programme, Lawrence.
Pictures, moving things.
They're moving things, yeah.
Yeah, but there was so we were out in Marseille recording a Welsh television programme I was doing with Nigel Owens and Jonathan Davis, and Lawrence came on as a guest.
Oh, lovely.
Via
I
Zoom.
need some tips for Marseille for this weekend. Where to go?
Yes. Okay, I've got
Yes.
some
Do
restaurants.
you know what? It's really good when you're
all
on a
over
show
it.
that you got no idea what anyone's saying, right? And then you think, I think they're talking about me, but do you know what? It doesn't really matter.
You just listen for your name. It's long enough.
You were very good. You were very entertaining, as always, Lawrence Dallaglio. Okay, shall we meet this week's guest then? After a turbulent end to his time with Wasps last October, he made the move to Toulouse and ended up as part of a team who were crowned top 14 champions at the end of the season. He's also been a regular member of Steve Borthwick's England squad this year and now has 14 international caps to his name. It's Jack Willis. Hi, Jack. How are you?
Hi guys, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me on.
Jack, not really the circumstances we'd love to see. We'd like to be
No.
talking to you still in the England World Cup camp. I'm assuming you're back home now in Toulouse. You had to withdraw, obviously, from the squad due to your neck injury you picked up in the match against Chile. You're obviously going to be gutted about that. How are you feeling? And what's the latest? I mean, there was a lot of talk on social media because of all the injuries you've had previously, but I'm assuming this is quite a short little injury and just one of those inconvenient ones that you picked up.
Yeah, I think it's, looking at some of the injuries I've had over the years where you're looking at 9 months out, 12 months out. I definitely don't think it's one of those. I think necks and nerves you've just got to look after. And I think, unfortunately, it's not one that you can push through too much and take too many risks with. And as you said, the timeframes with it only being, well, there's only this week guaranteed. And I think that was sort of the logic behind it. And we need to get this week right in order to get to the semi-final or the further stages. So unfortunately, the decision was made to send me home. But I have no regrets from sort of what I chucked into the tournament. I loved all of it. And it really is a great group. And I think the next few weeks will be a good few weeks for them for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, how has the time that you spent within that England camp, how has it been over the last few months?
Yeah, it's obviously a long time away from home as well. There's a lot of preparation that goes in from. I went into camp 2 weeks after the top 14 finals, so sort of jumped straight back into it. And yeah, I love the experience. We had a week away in Verona in Italy, which was great as well. And you just get to spend so much sort of quality time with those lads that you get to know them so well. I think even a lad like Theo Dan before this campaign, I hadn't even properly met the bloke, and then you're sharing a room with someone for 3 months. It's you really do get to know people well, and it's a pretty unique experience.
He was your roomie, was he?
He was, yeah.
For the entire time?
Yeah, he's a good lad.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Jack, it's obviously been not the smoothest of World Cups so far, although you could argue the other way that England have won every single game so far, which is all that you can do. But do the players share the fans' frustrations? Because obviously watching, we've made great strides. It seemed to overcome Argentina, which was a great start, beat Japan, fantastic against Chile, and then you're sort of feeling like it almost was a backward step against Samoa. I mean, is there a frustration within the camp at the way that things are going at the moment?
I don't think so. No, I think fundamentally 4 from 4 coming out of the group stages is a good position to be in and top in the group. I think the one thing I would say, being part of the group for the time I was there, the want to improve week on week is huge, and never really being happy with the performance. I know for a fact that they won't be sitting there happy with the performance against Samoa, but they got the job done and got the win. I think there's always a lot of frustration and talk when performances don't look sort of too rosy, but I think getting the job done is what's important in tournaments like the World Cup.
How do you guys deal with that, Jack? Because there has been criticism. I mean, you're not the only team that's had criticism for performances, but the criticism from the media and the fans, and I don't mean you personally, I mean as a collective, when you're in a tournament like this, as a group, how do you deal with that?
I think, being really blunt and honest, it's kind of white noise. We don't really pay much attention to it. I certainly don't. Maybe some lads do more than others. I think there's a real feeling that what we can control is the training sessions, is the quality and the effort that we put in, and everything externally is what it is, kind of thing. And we've got to crack on with the job at hand. And the coaches do a great job at refocusing us each week at the task at hand and never looking too far ahead. Obviously, the boys have started their prep this week now, I'd imagine, for Fiji, and I think there'll just be great excitement around that. I think you probably reviewed the game yesterday, and now it's on to Fiji. Take the learnings and then sort of focus back in.
Jack, the last time you spoke on this podcast, we talked about the RFU still having what is now a very outdated rule about not allowing the head coach, Steve Borthwick, to select players who are playing their club rugby outside of England. We know that you had special dispensation along with one or two others for the World Cup after what happened at Wasps. But have you managed, and I'm suspecting the answer is probably no because you focused on the World Cup, but have you managed to have conversations with either the RFU or Steve yet about what the future might hold? Because without sounding too dramatic, as the rule stands, you might have played your last game for England for a little while.
Yeah, no, look, as you say, as it stands at the moment, and as far as I know, that's the situation. I think any sort of discussions around what the future holds, I will be saving and the RFU will be saving for post-World Cup, I'd imagine. I think that's, as you touched on there, Lawrence, that's the focus for now. The one thing that I could be pretty clear about is I want to be playing for England. I would obviously want the rule to change. I think I love playing for Toulouse and was so grateful, and I am so grateful for the opportunity they've given me after losing my job. It's coming up to a year ago now, which feels pretty crazy, everything that's gone on in that year. But I think the situation was they gave me an arm and reached out when I didn't really have anything else. I didn't have anything else in England at that time, and I've loved every second of being here since. So we'll see. I feel I'm in a place that will make me better as a rugby player, and hopefully they'd be able to see the same way. But equally, I understand there's a lot more external factors that go into these considerations.
You've just mentioned there, it is coming up to a year now since you moved to France. How have you and the family, I guess, settled into French life? Some of the pros and cons for us, Jack.
I think the pros are definitely the weather. The food and lifestyle is pretty great out here, and I think there are times where it's pretty tough. I'm a real family man. I've got an amazing family back home, and including Megan's family within that. They've supported my career beyond measure, really, for ever since it started, and being away from home is difficult. It's difficult for me. It's difficult for Megan. She's been living out here alone for the last couple of months. And that's a challenge that you sort of don't really see on what even myself, what you'd be popping on Instagram. She's basically been a single mum for the last couple of months, bless her. And she's incredible, working away, raising our boy whilst I'm sort of trying to do my best at the World Cup. But not having that support as close is always difficult.
And you're expecting another baby now. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just to add to the chaos.
I know, right? So your little boy's called Enzo, which is actually the name of Lawrence's son as well. So name-wise now, are you going to be choosing something French now that you're over there? Any thoughts?
There's been some discussions. Maybe middle name. Maybe the middle name. Yeah.
Nice. One thing I wanted to ask you as well, you said that Toulouse gave you kind of, a lifeline after the whole Wasps thing. Like, you seemed like such a tight-knit group of boys, right? You seem more like friends than teammates. So when you go from that into another club, not from your own choice and not from your, so how does that work? Is it difficult to settle in to another club when you're leaving your mates behind, when it's not your choice?
Yeah, it all happened so quickly, sort of looking back to that. Everything happened at Wasps, and then a week later I was in England camp for the autumn series, told I wasn't picked against South Africa on the Tuesday, and then played for Toulouse on the Sunday after that. So it was all a bit of a whirlwind. And I think the difficulty you say there, I've gone from playing with people that I almost grew up watching, the likes of like Joe Launchbury, bit at the club coming through the academy, to being top mates with all these guys that I've then played with for 8 years, to suddenly being in a room full of people that most of the guys don't speak my language. Well, sorry, I don't speak their language. And I'm in a room not being able to communicate. And I think we all know how important a bit of banter and getting stuck into each other is in that rugby environment. And just sort of, by the time I've even tried to thought of something remotely, what I think's funny to say, the moment's gone anyway. Yeah. So it is a challenge, definitely. But I'm working hard on that and having lessons each week, and sort of continued them on Zoom throughout the campaign, the World Cup campaign. So we'll get there, hopefully.
You need to work on your DIY still, though. Those walls are still looking a bit bare behind you.
Give him a break. He's been away for a few months.
I thought your brother was going to come and help you put the shelves together before he came back. Did he not bother?
Nick Knowles, we'll send him out there.
Yeah.
Listen, Jack, you let your rugby do the talking, because you force your way into that starting lineup, and you ended up a French top 14 champion. We've got ourselves a very tasty lineup for the weekend. There's every chance there could be an all Northern Hemisphere semi-final lineup, which there was for Southern Hemisphere in 2015, which would be incredible. You obviously play with quite a few of those French superstars as your teammates at Toulouse. I mean, moving away from England and Ireland and Wales, what do you think the chances are of the host nation? What's been the feeling over there in France?
I think there's a massive belief over here in what they have done over the last 12 to 24 months and also what they can do. I think they've had their challenges thrown at them the last few weeks with a couple of key players, 3 of them probably being Toulouse players as well. Antamac obviously out for a few months. I think they're hoping that Marchand and Dupont will feature in the next couple of games if they get through to the semi-final. But I think obviously their side of the draw is incredibly challenging as well. They've got South Africa this weekend and they've been in great form. So I think if they get past this weekend and get that win, I think the belief will be huge out here.
And obviously turning to England, you played, didn't you, at Twickenham against Fiji in a game that obviously was history-making for all the wrong reasons. What do you think England need to do to beat that Fiji team this weekend on Sunday in Marseille?
I think what we have been doing well throughout the tournament, I think you've seen the ability to kick amongst our playmakers, the kicking decision-making and the ability to contest in the air, I think is an area that we definitely could dominate at the weekend. And I think one thing that we can't forget, and I think there's probably an element of that slid in a little bit at the weekend, as much as people wouldn't like to admit, I think when a game has no real cost to it, if you like, there is a difference. We're all competitive beasts. We all want to win games and win competitions. And when it really means something, that's when it really counts. And I think you'll see a group this weekend that are competitive and will go out there and get the job done. I really, really believe that.
Jack, quick word about your brother Tom, who I think Steve Borthwick should have taken to the World Cup, as I'm sure you and your family do. He's now got the only number 8 on the bench and not playing particularly well, but that's for me to say, not you. How's your brother settling into life at Saracens? You obviously communicate with him on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, no, he's loving it. I think he can certainly see why they've been so successful over the last, decade, really. It's always a challenge joining a new club. We talk regularly about that and how it's been for me joining Toulouse, him joining Bordeaux.
At least he can get involved with the banter, though, right? At least he understands the banter.
He's got rubbish chat, so it's probably struggling.
Banter.
No, I think it's probably a little bit, it is a bit strange suddenly going back to the Allianz Park for the first time and being in the other changing room. We've had some not so great memories there playing for Wasps over the years, that's for sure. But I think he's really excited more than anything. Again, going back to that sort of competitive side of things, back to the Premiership this weekend, and it's a hell of a rivalry between them and Exeter. So it's a great way to start, and hopefully he can be involved in that starting lineup and go and show what he's made of.
Oh, Jack, it's great talking to you as always. Thank you so much for coming on. Super appreciate
thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Jack. Hope you're back on the rugby field soon. Best wishes, of course, to your family, and good luck with the new baby when he or she arrives.
Thank you very much.
And thanks so much for joining us today.
See you soon, guys. Take care.
Okay then, before we go any further, Lawrence, it's time for you to choose the big batch. Big batch?
Big batch.
It's really early in the morning. It's too early really to be speaking, I feel. The big match moment from the weekend.
Can I just ask you, for
What?
not just for me, but for all our listeners, can you say my name again?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. It's Lawrence. No
I
one ever says-
don't often call you Lawrence,
No,
do
you
I?
don't.
I just call you Lawrence.
You don't often buy me cake in the morning.
No,
but
well, you haven't eaten it.
as you overslept.
I overslept, Steve,
There needs to be
apparently.
bribes. Anyway, big match moment, yes. Well,
The big match moment was him getting up, but yeah.
The big match moment with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 Ultra. Bring the big match to an expansive display.
I'd like to say there was one from the England game, and actually there was a few big match moments. Owen Farrell passed Johnny Wilkinson's all-time point-scoring record, but as it took him over a minute to take his penalty, I can't give him a big match moment, can I really?
Likes to take his time.
Do you know what? It would be wrong, even as an England fan. They don't deserve the big match moment this week. The big match moment has to go to that final game. I mean, Portugal. Oh, my word.
I have loved watching them play this World Cup.
I think we all have. I mean, this is a country I've spent a lot of time in. I had a house there for over 12 years. And, I've seen how their rugby has gone from where it was, 20 years ago to where it is now. It's an incredible story. And, we've had Japan in the past. We've had Fiji themselves in this tournament. I think the quality of their rugby has been amazing. Heartbroken for them that they drew that game against Georgia with the miss kick in the last minute. But I think the moment has to go to them, their coaches. And, what was it, 78th, 79th minute of the game? I watched it again last night on Catch Up because I just thought, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I watched it outside a bar in Marseille, and I was with Jiffy and Jamie Roberts, Josh Navidi was there, Nigel Owens was there. Like, there was a big group of us, and we watched it, and we were just saying, like, for the neutral, this is like the perfect outcome, right? Portugal winning, and Fiji still going through. It was kind of like
Well, I think for them,
World Cup.
that was their World Cup final. I mean, and the unbridled joy that you get from a group of players and coaches winning, the players on the bench.
And the emotion.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, Fiji beat England for the first time ever a few weeks ago at Twickenham. And that was that. This is as big, if not bigger, than that. For Portugal to beat them. I mean, that has to be.
And for rugby to be on the front pages of the national
Exactly. I'll tell you where it would have been good to watch. It was the Australian team hotel. Unpack, pack. Are we going? Are we staying? I mean, it was just, to see Mike Tajay, that kick that he put into touch was just perfect, wasn't it? And that for his final game to be that for Portugal and the emotion that it came with it, and for them to be with their family on the pitch afterwards, it was just a perfect ending, wasn't it, to the pool stages, really?
It was. Unless you were Eddie Jones or Australian, that's not the perfect.
I think they probably knew they weren't going to get through anyway, didn't they, really?
There was a Drew Mitchell that sent out a tweet halfway through the game saying, "So you're saying there's still a chance?" Which I actually quite enjoyed. Okay, so that's your big moment. I love it. Okay, let's take a look at the quarterfinals then, gents. Gosh, I can't believe we're here already.
I know.
2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. First up, Wales face Argentina. Will Warren Gatland's men and the World Cup hopes of Las Pumas. Argentina, they were last in the quarterfinal in 2015, weren't they? When they knocked Ireland out? Was it in the tournament before losing to Australia then in the semis? Steve, who do you think will be packing their bags for Paris, and who do you think will be packing to go home?
Looking at it objectively, you'd say that Wales have the momentum and they are playing the better rugby. However, I still don't think we've seen the best from this Argentinian team.
They've got a game in them, see.
They have, and with the back line that they've got, you think that there is a threat there all over. I mean, I think this could be a really tight game. Thankfully for you, I actually think Wales will get through. I think they're going to have too much. ultimately, but I think it's going to be a lot tighter than expected.
No, big loss, isn't he?
He is, but I think you look at the options that they've still got in the back row to come in with the likes of Tommy Rafael. You've still got options there to play. And Jack Morgan's versatility as well. I think Wales should have enough. Lowell, what do you think?
Listen, I think we have to give credit to Warren Gatland and his coaching staff, who are under enormous criticism or under the microscope coming into the tournament. I think he has got the best out of this squad. I think there's a lot of growth in them. Yeah, sure, they haven't played superbly well. Are they anywhere near as good as the teams on the other side of the draw? No, they're not. But I think they're having a real go. You know, they're making mistakes in games, but they look like they're enjoying themselves. So, that's what rugby's all about. And so they've got a lot of talent in that squad. And if I was looking at Argentina, and I know the way Gatland would be speaking to them, you know, Argentina struggled against England. They were desperately poor, actually. Struggled against Japan. You know, yes, they've got talent, but
they got the checker factor as well.
Yeah, they have. I still think Wales can go and win this game. I really do. So we're going for Wales, right?
Okay, yeah.
We are going for Wales, yeah.
Right. So the second game on Saturday, it is massive, isn't it? Ireland against the All Blacks. Ireland have never progressed past the quarterfinal stage of a Rugby World Cup. They're ranked number 1 in the world, as we all know, and they have beaten the All Blacks 3 times in their past 4 meetings. What are you saying, Lol?
Well, it's a huge game, mouth-watering game, in fairness. I'm going to go with the number 1 side in the world. I keep swapping about this, but I genuinely believe if Ireland get through this game, I think they'll go on and win the World Cup. They've already had to beat South Africa. They will have to beat the All Blacks, and then they'll have to go and beat probably potentially another Southern Hemisphere team.
So they'll do it the hard way, right?
Although maybe not, because maybe all 4 Northern Hemisphere teams will win. The fact that they won a series in New Zealand, I think, gives the All Blacks serious motivation for this game. But as long as their forwards get it right up front, I don't see this New Zealand pack of forwards being good enough to get enough ball against Ireland or be, you know, I just don't see it. I think Ireland have got too much about them, and there's something about Andy Farrell and New Zealand. He's got an incredible record against the All Blacks, both as a Lions coach and as the Ireland coach. So, yeah.
And they've got some, like, their fans, Ireland's fans are just insanely
green
amazing.
everywhere.
Well, and let's be honest, and Ireland have never had it. I mean, their fans have always been the best.
They have
in any sport, in any tournament, in any sport.
Yeah.
But they've actually got something to really cheer about, and they have done right from, you know, the get-go. As you said, they're the number 1 side in the world. I was so impressed with how they coped with South Africa. Yeah, of course, if the goal kicker had been a bit better, they would have lost the game. But ifs and buts, they just look very, very composed. So it's a tight one to call. But I do think Ireland have got enough.
Do you think injuries and fatigue might come into this? Because obviously they've got Lowe, Hansen, Ryan all carrying potential knocks, might be missing. A lot of their players have played a lot of minutes in tough games on that side of the draw. I mean, for them to win 7 games to win the World Cup coming out of the pool that they have is going to be a tough assignment. Whereas New Zealand, you look at them and you go, well, tough first game against France, relatively easy ride through the rest of the pool.
Though, couldn't you? You could flip that, saying that they haven't had the tough games that Ireland have
Well,
had,
would you rather play tough games or would you rather play the easy games?
I think battle-hardened and ready, really. You know, I really believe that. I don't think that's an issue. And if you're winning games, you know, the little hand injuries go away, don't they, really?
True.
Okay, so who are we going for? Lawrence, Ireland, Steve?
I think you've got to back Ireland, haven't you?
Yes, I concur. Okay.
So that's two Northern Hemisphere
Two
sides.
Northern Hemisphere. Basically, we're just going to pick the Northern Hemisphere, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So two to go. Then on Sunday, first up will be England against Fiji. Neither team gave their best performance at the weekend. What do England need, Lol? Like, don't just say win, because it feels like...
Well, I think it was interesting, Jack Willis there. I mean, he sort of hit on it, didn't he, really? When it's a dead rubber, England were always going to go through, always going to top the group. Yes, they should have played a lot better. I mean, it was really bad, really poor. I just want England, a couple of things. I'd love them to play what they see in front of them as opposed to play by numbers or paint by numbers, as I call it. I mean, the first line out of the game, I don't know if you saw it, but Manu Tuolangi got 10 yards over the advantage line. We had a 6-on-1 overlap on the left-hand side. And Ellis Genge came round on a decoy and they gave it to Jamie George, and through no fault of his own, you know, that overlap was then butchered. And it's just almost like they're playing the way they've been told to play as opposed to actually playing what they see in front of them. And these are very, very good players. So I think England will win because I think they've seen enough in that Fiji game to realise that, you know, Fiji aren't, you know, if you squeeze the life out of them, there is huge opportunities. And I just think, you know, Jack alluded to it, well, it's it's all about the kicking game and about catching and competing. It's like, well,
As England fans, though, do you care, like, if England get to a semi-final of a World Cup? Like,
I do.
You do?
I do, yeah.
What, would you rather than play really pretty rugby, really attractive rugby and not go out of the pool
No,
stage?
because
You wouldn't.
Because if
So
they're playing
actually-
pretty rugby, they'd still get to a semi-final.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh, they would. I mean, England have had it easy. Come on, they've been playing against a completely outsourced Argentinian team, a Japan team that their best days were 4 or 5 years ago. You know, it's not been great.
It's been. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be going this weekend, and it's as going as a fan. And yes, you do want to have entertainment because you think I'm forking out all this money to go and watch them, and I want to see them do well. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of poor performances recently. I mean, I went to Twickenham when we lost to Fiji, and that was poor. I went to see them lost to South Africa. That was even worse. But I agree with Lowell in a way because this is a talented bunch. There's a lot more to come from them. I think there's two big things for England is, number one, get your basics right. If they do that, and if we pick a team with the players in the right position, Ford Farrell debate ended at the weekend. It's got to be Owen Farrell starting at number 10. You've got to play two centres with Ford coming off the bench if you need him. I'd start Marcus Smith as well at fullback, and I'd have Freddie Stewart on the wing.
There's a few people that believe. I mean, England are sort of at the moment, whether it's Steve Borthwick's fault or not, caught between two stools. We're not big enough up front to challenge the power game that some of these other teams have. Ireland, France, South Africa. We're nowhere near big enough. And we haven't got enough pace behind with the team that we're picking.
Exactly, with the team we're picking. We had a man who scored 5 tries and he didn't even get in the 23, Henry Arundel. I didn't understand that at all. But I think you're right. If we play with pace, I think we can match Fiji easily and out wide. And England should win this game.
Okay, so we're going England again then, are we?
Well, we are, because we're not going to lack for motivation, are we? We lost to Fiji at a half-empty stadium, for Courtney Law's 100th cap. So you'd like to think the players will be fired up and fuelled up. And, we're not losing to Fiji again. So, yes.
I mean, you agree it's got to be Owen Farrell now at number 10?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think we need more pace. I mean, I nearly threw something at the TV screen and moved Freddie Stewart to the wing. I mean, literally. Really?
You think he should start at the wing?
Well,
we've got one out-and-out natural winger named in the team. So one person that plays wing all the time at their club. And, I think you have to pay international rugby a bit more respect than that. I mean, I love Ben Earl. He's been our outstanding player, but he lost control of the ball at the base of the scrum in that last match because the last time he played number 8 for Saracens was November 2021. You can't pick people out of position.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
No, so I guess I've been slightly contradictory to say that Marcus Smith should play and we should play players in the right positions because that wouldn't work either.
What Marcus Smith does is give England attacking intent. He makes England think differently.
But where does he play, though? That's the problem. If you've got Farrell at 10.
That's not the game plan that Borthwick wants to go
England
with.
Steve's going to stick to his guns. He's going to play the way that he feels that that gives England the best chance of winning, and it'll be enough to beat Fiji. It gets to a semi-final, but the last time we played France, we got walloped by 40 points, and the last time we played Ireland, we got walloped by 40 points. So, yeah, you can't win a World Cup by being hard to beat, right? You've got to win a World Cup by actually going out and scoring a lot of points.
Okay. Lastly then, France and South Africa. The game which a lot of people predicted would be the final, and one of them is going to go home on Sunday. It's mad, isn't it, to think 2 of Ireland, New Zealand, South Africa and France are going to be going home.
Well, they are I don't know if you saw the IRB, or would you call them the World Rugby Rankings. They're, not that they count for an awful lot, but they were just republished a couple of days ago. And Ireland are top, France are second, South Africa are third, and New Zealand are fourth. So just to be clear, the 4 best sides in the world as of today, 2 of them will no longer be here after this weekend. And it is sad because, South Africa and France are, play brilliantly. And I don't know, it's a bit like the All Blacks Ireland. It's such a tough one to call. Is Dupont going to be named in the team? I mean, there was never in doubt the surgeon wasn't going to say, no, you're not fit to play.
Not if he was French.
Do you risk him, though, in this game, or do you wait for semi-final and final?
Lucas has been fantastic. I think you have to play him, maybe on the bench. I mean, if he's fit enough to play,
he plays.
He plays, doesn't he? But, yeah, I don't know. That's down to the coaching staff.
And who are we going with?
Well, I mean, South Africa, they've got selection issues as well in terms of, who do they pick at 9? Who do they pick at 10? There's so many options for them in terms of what they do. What balance do they have on the bench? I think a lot depends on who they pick. I mean, Pollard's got to play, hasn't he? Because you've got to kick your goals in a game like this.
I think I'm going to go South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Well, when we sat here at the start of the tournament, I said it would be a France-South Africa fight. You picked France to win, so I had to go for South Africa, so I've got to stick with them now. So I think South Africa are going to upset the party, and I think they're going to win.
The hosts, then you deserve it. So, but I still think the hosts have got a little trick up their sleeve. I think it's going to be a tight game, and I think the 50-50 decisions do go, as I've known from my own experience, do go with the host team.
So with what we've just said, it will be a Wales, Ireland...
Yeah.
England, France.
Well, I think
England, South Africa.
Yeah, England,
South Africa.
Well, no, I'm going to go
Lol's going France.
I'm going all four. Northern Hemisphere.
I think one of them will slip up. I can't see that we'll get all four. I just hope it's not England.
I mean, in 2015, we had all four Southern Hemispheres. So,
True.
I mean, I think it's been a brilliant World Cup in the fact that all four pools have been won by, the Northern Hemisphere teams. So why not?
Well done us.
Well done us. Go on the Lions and Scotland.
Okay, we must mention the Gallagher Premiership is also back in action at the weekend. It's going to be kind of like wall-to-wall rugby, right? It's non-stop rugby. You better cancel all your other plans because you won't want to miss any of it. And I will see you both in Marseille, gentlemen.
And speaking of Marseille, let's head over there now to get the very latest from the Evening Standard rugby correspondent, Nick Purawal, who has all the news from the England camp. Nick.
Hi, Lawrence. Great to be with you. At the moment, England are pushing forward with their campaign. They're taking on Fiji on Sunday in Marseille, but right now they're staying in Aix-en-Provence, which is just down the road, about 45 minutes away. And today they've had their first press conference here and they've got a first training session, so they're kind of finding their feet again after moving. And we heard from Billy Vunipola, and they were just talking about taking on Fiji and the fact that, as is often the case with England, they won't really be anyone's favourite team among the neutrals. In fact, Billy was saying that they're quite happy to be public enemy number one if that's how people see them. And it's often what happens to teams that do well, actually, isn't it? That neutrals tend to get a bit frustrated with them because I think sometimes people find it boring if it's the same teams winning all the time. You wouldn't exactly say that England are in favourites territory for this World Cup, but they ought to be favourites for this game against Fiji. But the interesting dynamic of that, obviously, is that they lost against Fiji 30 points to 22 at the end of August. That sent shockwaves through the England camp. Lots changed since then, not least the fact that obviously England have qualified for the quarterfinals, 4 wins from 4, but the quality of the opposition they've had has been fairly mediocre in many senses, and their 18-17 win over Samoa didn't exactly tear up any trees. So it's time for them to get it together. Bit of talk about that and about what they've got to do to get their game back in order. So the hope is certainly on their part this weekend that they'll get it together and actually produce the performance with which they believe themselves to be capable. And there's certainly enough talent and experience in that squad to suggest that they can do this. But obviously it's a massive, massive challenge. And it's a very, very capable Fiji team. And a lot of talk today about Levani Botia, the excellent open side flanker that Fiji have, who used to play centre and is adept at both centre and flanker, but will be the scourge of the breakdown if England don't dominate in that area. With England's quarterfinal being the Sunday game this week, we won't know England's team until Friday afternoon, which will obviously leave people guessing a little bit in the meantime and on 10 hooks to see exactly what that'll be. I'd expect changes to be kept to a minimum, frankly, because that's kind of Steve Borthwick's way and it's a fairly settled setup. One we might see, though, it wouldn't surprise me overly if they shift Owen Farrell to fly half, Manu Tuilagi to inside centre, and potentially Joe Marchant starts at 13, although there's a chance for Ollie Lawrence as well, who's played well. I think that would be very harsh on George Ford, but I think one of the things they're looking at is improving again the kicking game, which they went away from slightly against Samoa. They didn't kick as accurately as they had done. And in fact, they didn't kick as often as they had done. And I think perhaps that's one of the things they need to get back to this weekend. That suggests that Farrell might move back to 10. I think, however, it plays out, I think Farrell will certainly start. They've got such high regard and they hold him in such high esteem that I can't really see him not starting. And obviously he's the captain too. So it'll be fascinating to see how they split the bench up. But I think Ford could be on the bench with Marcus Smith as well, depending on the other personnel in the starting lineup. If you have somebody like Marchant on the wing, for example, that allows you to remodel the backline and he can slot into the centre if required. So yeah, I think beyond that, you maybe might not see too many more changes, perhaps 1 or 2 in the pack. But yeah, I think the main thing is more than personnel. England have really got to get all facets of their game together. Losing their out is as simple as that. So it's a total shootout. They're very capable of winning the game, but it's about time they get it together now.
Thanks, Nick. That's all for this episode. My thanks to the inimitable, indomitable.
I don't even know what that means either. But
lots of ins.
Yeah.
Sarra and to Steve. And to our,
Is that it?
and to our guest, Jack Willis. And a special thank you to you all for listening. Enjoy the rugby and see you next time.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio.